Good evening, Super League fans worldwide. Tonight, I'm being joined by Scott, the Chudley Cannons manager. We're going to talk about his first half season in charge and what he thinks of the league in general. And I'm sure it's going to be an excellent half hour or so, talking all things CMO 102. So enjoy. Good evening, Scott. Hope you can hear me okay.
Evening, mate. All right.
Can you hear me okay? I can't quite hear you at the moment. 1 second. Typical technical fault. I think it's my end, mate. Don't you worry.
Yeah, can you hear me?
Hopefully, you can hear me now.
I can hear you. Yeah, can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you. Oh, sorry about that. How are you, mate? All good?
Yeah, I'm good. Are you?
Yeah. Let's get straight into it. Oh, what happened there? I think it looks like your screen's gone off, Scott.
Your screen's gone off on mine.
Cool. I think we fixed it. Let me just double check. That should have fixed it. Let's go back, 7 days. Let's start with last week's game.
Yeah.
2-0 loss to Panathinaikos. What was your take on the game?
A little bit frustrating, really. We bossed the first half. I say bossed it. We didn't boss it, but we didn't allow them to create anything. We created a couple of chances ourselves, but we just weren't clinical enough. And Panathinaikos are not in the top 6 without reason. It's always going to be tough to keep them out for 90 minutes. So realistically, we needed to capitalise when we're on top. We didn't do that. We let them back in the game, and they took the chances. We didn't really.
And on the wider picture, if we look at the league table after that game, you're 4 points off the bottom, 10 points off the top 6. So it's kind of a two-part question. Do you consider yourself in that battle at the bottom with teams such as Devils, BTEC, Sloths? And the second part, do you consider yourself with, 11 games still to play? Or 12 games still to play? Are you out of the race to top 6 already?
In terms of the top 6, yes, I think we are. I think that we're sort of over after we failed to beat Devils at home. In terms of the scrap for the bottom, well, look, the league table doesn't lie. We're 4 points above the bottom with 10 points outside the playoffs. So, but that's come off the back of a really poor run of form. We've only got 1 point out of our last 4 games, whereas we took 7 from our previous 3 games before that. So yeah, just far too inconsistent.
Yeah, it's that inconsistency actually, which I've picked up on. Obviously, this is your first campaign in the Super League. How have you found it? Because obviously, everyone has their own experiences of Champ. How have you found this version? And do you think your inexperience in doing this at Super League level has caused that inconsistency?
Well, how have I found it? Firstly, I've really enjoyed it. I've settled in well, got to know a lot of the guys. I really enjoy it. I love the interaction. I love Sunday nights. I love, contributing towards commentary and the midweek shows and the team of the weeks and all that stuff. So the interaction is sort of what makes it enjoyable. So in terms of the game, and can you put the inconsistency down to inexperience? I don't think so. You're playing against teams, 14 teams made up of the best, 200-300 players on the game. So, I wouldn't expect any team to be running away with it. So I would put the inconsistency down in results to the inconsistency in team selection, formation, tactics, that sort of thing. I find myself getting a little bit frustrated if we don't win or we have a couple of poor games or whatever. And because you have to wait so long between games, rather than on a home save, if you lose a couple of games, you're on to the next game after a few minutes. You have a week to wait and a week to dwell on it, and probably overthink things too much. So I've probably changed it up a little bit too much, to be honest.
No, that's fair enough. Again, as I said in the Midlothian video that we did a couple of days ago, obviously I've been very lucky to get access to certain stats, nothing too intimate to each team, but the basic stats that you guys can see. I'm picking out goals scored as an area of concern for yourselves. Rossini, unsurprisingly, perhaps your top goal scorer. More surprisingly, he's only got 4.
Yeah, again, we've struggled to score goals, but when we have scored, we generally score more than one. So I was just sort of looking through my results. We beat Dragons, we scored 4. We beat Midlothian, we scored 2. Beat Churchtown, we scored 4. Beat Hulls, we scored 2. But when we lose, generally we lose to 0. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 games this season we've lost to 0. So I think starting well in games is key. You don't want to be chasing games. I think we've been ahead in all the games we've played, barring Dragons, we were 2 down at half time. And in terms of consistency for Rossini or his lack of goals, he's contributed 4 assists as well, I think, in them 4 goals. But we just haven't had enough goals from throughout the team. So it's tough. We've changed formation a fair bit as well, which doesn't help for players settling in.
Now, I'm trying with these to offer a balanced view. Now, obviously, it's easier to say good things about teams at the top. It's easier to point out negatives for teams at the bottom. The one thing I did notice as I was going through the stats for the Cannons is I personally feel it might be a case that your big players need to stand up and be counted because, again, there's no surprise in the name going to 7, but only Balmer is averaging over a 7.5 thus far this season. Now, to put that in perspective, I can't remember the exact numbers, but I'm bottom of the league, and I think I've got 3 players that are averaging above that.
Yeah, that's something I've actually looked at in the last couple of weeks. I think Andre, the goalkeeper, is averaging above 7.5 as well.
I think he's 7.5.
Sorry?
I believe his average is 7.5.
Right, okay. But yeah, there is a couple of others in there that we could be getting more out of. Players like Van Bommel, I'd be expecting to average more around 8. Extra Berea potentially, but I've mixed him up in all sorts of different positions. Liverani, I should probably be getting a bit more out of. He's been in and out of the team as well and played in different positions. But Van Bommel stands out for me as someone who should be averaging up towards 8 and above, contributing with more assists as well. So, I'm looking at a few different things for sort of when we go into the restart about how I can firstly get some consistency in performance, which will probably come from consistency in tactics and selection.
Well, on that note, I've picked out 6 names here, and I'm just going to throw this simple stat out there just to see what you think, because obviously things probably haven't gone exactly how you'd hope thus far, okay? Now, Vrede, 1 sub-appearance this season. Ibrahimovic, 1 appearance this season. Emre, 2 appearances this season. Mendes de Silva, who is averaging 7.5. Roque Jr. and Steve Finn, 4 appearances this season. So that's 6 players there who haven't even made 5 appearances this season. Might there be room for them from the second half of the season as you try new things?
Let me go through them one at a time for you. So Vrede played a couple at the start, 1 or 2 at the start. Just not someone I fancy, if I'm completely honest. I've brought in another centre back. So I would suggest that Vrede's playing time will be limited. Roque Jr. played the first couple and was shit. I think he's averaging below 6 or or was after 2 or 3 games. So we sort of went down a different route with that. Ibrahimovic, it's tough. I've played one up front a lot, and it's hard to leave Rossini out. I'm also a big fan of Harasimovic. So look, we will see Ibrahimovic going into the second half of the season. Definitely, he'll get game time. Who else did you say? Finnan. Finnan will, I would imagine, feature heavily in the second half of the season. He's played the last few games. He's been solid, and I think he'll be a player who, come into the season, will drag his average above 7.5. And again, Mendes de Silva is someone who, after 2 or 3 years, will develop really well, and he will see plenty of game time second half of the season.
Excellent. As we're sort of moving that way already in the conversation organically, looking ahead, and you have touched on it, in the non-Super League transfer window, you've very quickly brought in your 2 players ready, Carlos Jacks and Igor Mitreski. I'm hoping I pronounced that right. Your thoughts behind signing those, and following on from that, again, linked into what we've already discussed, are you now already thinking ahead, depending on what rules we're given and what boundaries we're set into? Are you already thinking ahead to the next transfer window and maybe doing deals within the Super League?
So, firstly, on the guys that I've brought in, Mitreski was far from first choice, if I'm honest. But right from the very minute that I sort of took over at the start of the season, before we even kicked off, signing a top centre-back was a priority for me. A lot of the other Super League teams have already done deals, meaning sort of what I could do was sort of restricted, because a lot of guys either had deals agreed or had completed the deals. So I wasn't able to get a top centre-back in. But I thought it would be naive of me not to try and get one in this window, which is why Mitreski's in. And we'll see how that goes.
Interest, if you don't mind me interrupting, you say he wasn't first choice. Who else? Did you consider anyone else outside the Super League that maybe didn't want to come in that position?
Yeah, I tried to sign Jorge Costa from Porto twice at the start of the season and again in this window. And I also tried to sign Gareth Barry in this window, but neither of them wanted to join the Super League. Mitreski is someone who will develop. Whether he'll develop into a top-level centre-back is, that's hit and miss depending on what save you're on. So for me, the priority going into the next window and the Super League transfers is a top-class centre-back. Now, I've potentially got a deal in principle with another manager already. Now, I'm not sure how dependent that is on other deals going through with other managers and whatever, but I have got a deal in principle for that to happen. And then Carlos Jacks is someone that I've found probably maybe 6 months before I started playing Super League. I've had great success on home saves with. Fantastic numbers in terms of goals and assists, develops into a great player. Somebody maybe along the lines of sort of Kennedy or Brozic or those sort of people whose attributes don't always look fantastic, but that like Nicky Franco as well is a great example. Their attributes don't look that great, but the numbers they return in terms of goals and assists are fantastic. So, and also I think he's had a good run in the Super League in the previous version as well. I think he was quite successful. A couple of the managers have mentioned that to me. So, yeah, I'm excited to see how he can develop. He'll definitely get plenty of game time going into the second half of the season, and hopefully can develop into a good talent for next year.
And now you've got them new bodies in, what are your hopes for the second half of the season?
Good question. Some consistency would be good. I'm not going to set a points tally or anything like that because it's difficult. But yes, some more consistency would be good to close the gap between where we are now and the playoffs. Would be good. So I guess if we can better our points tally in the second half of the season than we have in the first half of the season, that's a starting point. There'll be plenty of game time for the young talented players with next season in mind. So yeah.
It's a question that I don't tend to ask a lot, but it's something I think about because obviously I'm never in that position. As someone coming into the league, do you feel a certain pressure to measure up against your predecessor?
No, not at all.
No.
Look, we're playing a game that's 20 years old. Most people involved have had vast experience of playing the game, vast success, lots of experience. Everybody has different preferences in terms of formations, tactics, players, and all that sort of stuff. It's been tough taking over a team with a squad that Tim built to play a specific system that he's spent months and years working on and tweaking and whatever. And he built the squad that I've inherited specifically to play that way. I didn't want to come in and just sort of copy or replicate that. I wanted to make it my own, hence the business that I've done and all that sort of stuff. But no, I don't feel any pressure at all. There's, like I said, I played the game probably as much as anybody. It's a great experience. I enjoy it. If you win, great. If you don't, then you don't. You try and learn.
I have to say, from my own perspective, you have very quickly risen up there to one of my favourite co-commentators. Your knowledge of the game is superb, but your intake of information and the way you can analyse effectively what is going on live on the Super League show has been brilliant. So I have to give you a round of applause for that and how quickly you have taken to that and how well you've taken to that. It's very harmless and it's very friendly. There seems to be this sort of Scottish Yorkshire sort of rivalry brewing. Neil or CM on the Rocks, the assistant manager for Midlothian, he said on the last show he thinks you're going to finish bottom. Is that purely, do you think, playful banter because of this rivalry between you? And where do you see Midlothian as a genuine rival to the Cannons?
No, they're trying to force a false rivalry. They love the interaction. They love the banter. There is no rivalry. Midlothian and Scotland are irrelevant to us down in Yorkshire. We'll continue to do our thing. We'll continue to work hard and try and improve our results. They can continue on their merry way, trying to wind people up, but actually getting themselves in a bit of a pickle and finding them the ones that become frustrated and all that sort of stuff. But look, it's all light-hearted fun. If Rox thinks we'll finish bottom, look, based on our last 4 or 5 games, I can see where he's coming from. But no, look, and I tell you what, the next game after the restart, we travel to Scotland to play them, and they better be ready for it. We've already beaten once this season, so strap themselves in.
Much like I did with them, and again, I haven't given you time to plan it, so if you want to think it through while I ask the next question first, I am going to ask you an off-the-fence 1 to 14 table prediction. But before I do, I have to talk to you about, away from the Super League, obviously you are a Leeds fan, and what has gone on this weekend has been brilliant for Leeds. It's been brilliant, I think, personally, for football. What has this weekend meant for you? If I get this right, you won on Thursday, you were confirmed promoted on Friday, confirmed champions on Saturday, and then beat Derby today.
Yeah, it's been brilliant. Look, any Leeds fan will tell you that we've waited a long time for this. I'm just about old enough to remember us playing in Europe, the Champions League, and challenging at the top of the Premier League. But the last 15, 16 years has been absolutely horrible. We've had points deductions, we've had awful owners, awful managers, we've been in League One. And, to be able to bring in a manager of the calibre of Marcelo Bielsa at Leeds is absolute credit to the owners and the directors and everyone involved at the club. And it's completely transformed the club from top to bottom. The infrastructure, the training ground, the routines of the players, and the demands that he's put on his players have been absolutely incredible. And you know what? They've all bought into it. And we were unlucky last year. Probably played the best football in the league last year, but didn't quite get over the line in the important moments. And this year we've just kicked on, and since the restart, we've been fantastic, and the players have been out on the piss for the last 2 days. We made 7 changes today, put the kids out, and we still played Derby off the park. It's not just 11 players that are turning up week in, week out. It's a full squad. Everybody's bought into it. Bielsa will keep people around and involved in the team if he doesn't think that they're ready to go in on any given occasion. So yeah, it's been brilliant. Yeah.
And do you think if Bielsa was in charge of a Super League team, would they win it?
Yeah, I would think so.
Great. Well, now it's all down to you. Whether you want to go 14-1 or 1-14, what is your prediction for the final Super League table? And from there, who is going to win it?
Right. Okay. So I'll start with the 1-14. I think table toppers will be Churchtown.
Very popular choice.
I think they will be followed by Vallen, followed by Ardsley in third, Midlothian in fourth, Bolton in fifth, Panathinaikos in sixth.
See, that's interesting. I'm interested to see where people put the Ryan CMAC rivalry. Who's going to finish on top of who? So that's interesting.
I think it'll be tight. I don't see Macca or Ryan breaking into the top 4, but I think there will be a little bit of a reshuffle in the top 4. Churchtown are on fire, but I think it'll be close. I think they'll both do enough to stay in the playoffs. They're both winning enough games, and then outside the playoffs, I think it's going to be tough to call. I think 7th and 8th will probably be Astor and Hulls, followed by probably ourselves in 9th. I'm going to go Sloths to finish 10th. Dragons 11. BTEC 12. Hodge 13. And Swindon 14.
So out of that top,
the bottom 4, 5, 6 teams could be in any order. The top 6, I think, is pretty much nailed on now. I think, I don't see the gap to the playoffs changing too much. If a team in the bottom half, the bottom 4 or 5, can put a run of games together, they could climb up to, the 7th, 8th, 9th. There's some teams down there with some incredible squads. BTEC are the ones that stand out, I guess, that shouldn't be battling out in the bottom 4. Hulls have got a decent squad. So it's going to be tough, but yeah, that's what I think.
And you've named your top 6 there. Who out of those goes on to win it this year?
I think it's going to be real tough this year. Ryan's got the experience. He's been there. He's done it. They got over the line. Probably weren't the best team in the final, but did enough. Vallen, I just feel they've not quite been the force that they were last year, but that they're always going to be in and around the mix. Midlothian are on a real good run of form. If they can keep that up and take that consistency into the second half of the season, then they're going to challenge. But for me, the favourites are Churchtown, just because they score so many goals, and they're entertaining to watch as well. So they're my favourites to win it.
That's great. Listen, Scott, thank you very much for taking time out of your Sunday evening to join me for this chat.
No worries.
I appreciate the honesty and the directness that you've given every question. It's brilliant. To give the Super League fans an idea of what's still to come, I'm recording with the Bolton Phoenix manager later tonight. You'll see that video tomorrow. I'm recording with Ardsley Celtic tomorrow, which you should also see tomorrow. I'm recording with BTEC Tuesday. You should see that on Tuesday. I think I've got an idea of how I'm going to do mine. So you'll probably see that back end of next week. I'm also scheduled to record something non-Super League related with Half and Half Scarves podcast, which I'm looking forward to. And I'm still hoping to get another 2 or 3 of the managers lined up for chats later next week. So plenty of Super League content to keep everyone busy until the action resumes. But no, again, thank you very much, Scott. Enjoy the rest of your evening. And when it all resumes, good luck against everyone except ourselves. And for your sake, I hope you're not battling us at the bottom. But for my own sake, I'm hoping we keep you within touching distance as long as possible.
No worries. Cheers, Fife. Keep up the good work, buddy.
Take care, mate.
Cheers, mate.
Cheers.